The moment the words left her mouth, the room felt painfully silent. The old wooden clock on the ranch house wall kept ticking, but to Samuel Reed, time had stopped. He stood frozen, hands still dusty from the morning's work, staring at the woman who had just turned his quiet world upside down. I want a child," Clara repeated softly, her voice trembling, but her eyes steady, determined. And Samuel, the shy rancher known across Dust Valley for barely speaking more than a handful of words a day, nearly collapsed. Samuel Reed had lived his 31 years tucked into the folds of his family's aging ranch, shy, gentle, and carrying a loneliness so deep it felt like part of his bones. After his parents died young, the ranch became both his refuge and his prison, a place he loved, and a reminder of everything he'd lost. People concerned themselves with cattle prices and crop failures. Samuel wrestled with silence. Then Clara Ellis arrived. She came to Dust Valley a year earlier, fleeing a city full of cold glass buildings and memories she didn't speak of. A graphic designer who could draw beauty out of anything, she came to the ranch seeking a quieter life, and was hired by Samuel's cousin to help redesign their branding and online presence. From the moment she met Samuel, she saw something no one else had ever noticed. His gentleness was not weakness. His silence was not emptiness. His shyness was simply a heart that had never felt safe enough to open. They grew close slowly, in the way the seasons change if you watch every sunrise, subtle, steady, breathtaking in hindsight. A shared coffee in the morning. Long walks among the horses. Quiet dinners. She filled the ranch with laughter. He steadied her storms with calm. Eventually, they became each other's home. Yet there was one truth Clara had carried for years, an ache, a longing she had never dared share until now. And that truth was the reason Samuel's world had just tilted off its axis. Samuel's hands shook as he finally managed to speak. "Clara, I don't know if I can be a father." His voice cracked, not from fear of the child, but fear that he wasn't enough. Clara crossed the room, placed her hands over his trembling ones. "Why? Because you're quiet. Because you're gentle. Samuel, those are the reasons I want you to be the father of my child." He stepped back, swallowing hard. "I don't want to fail you. Or them. I've never had a family. Not really. Not the way it should be." Clara's expression softened. "Then we make one. Together. A better one." But his past had claws. He remembered the nights he spent alone as a boy, the doors his parents slammed, the words they threw, the unpredictable tempers, the leaving, the loss. He had spent years convincing himself he was better off alone than risking repeating their mistakes. So when Clara reached for him, he whispered, "I'm scared." To his surprise, she didn't argue or push. She simply wrapped her arms around him and let him feel, maybe for the first time, that vulnerability wasn't something to hide but something to share. But the decision didn't resolve itself overnight. Weeks passed. They worked the ranch together as usual, feeding the horses, fixing fences, sharing meals, but something unspoken hovered between them. Samuel wrestled with the weight of his fears while Clara feared her dream of motherhood would remain locked behind the walls of his anxiety. Then one evening, everything changed. A violent storm rolled across Dust Valley, the kind that rattled windows and tore branches from trees. Their youngest mare, Daisy, went into early labor. Samuel and Clara rushed to the barn, battling wind and rain, trying to save the fragile new life struggling to survive. Hours passed in chaos, Samuel kneeling in mud, guiding the foal into the world, Clara calming the panicked mare, both of them soaked and shivering. Finally, the foal emerged, a small, shaking creature blinking up at them with wide, helpless eyes. Samuel wrapped the newborn in blankets. The foal pressed into his chest, trusting him completely. And something inside him broke open. Clara watched as Samuel held the small life against him, his expression softening in a way she had never seen. Tears glimmered in his eyes, pure, unguarded emotion. "She trusts you," Clara whispered. Samuel swallowed. "Why?" "I don't know what I'm doing." "Because she feels your heart," Clara said softly. "Just like I do. Just like our child would." The words hung in the warm, hay-scented air. Samuel looked at the foal, at Clara, then back again. And for the first time, the thought of being a father didn't terrify him. It filled him with longing. The next morning, with the storm washed away and sunlight filling the valley with gold, Samuel found Clara on the porch, drinking her coffee. He sat beside her, hands still rough from the night's work, nerves fluttering like 1,000 wings. "Clara," he said quietly, "I've been thinking." She looked at him with caution and hope. "I do want a family." Her breath caught. "I want your child. Our child." His voice trembled but didn't break. "I may not be perfect. I may be quiet. I may make mistakes. But I'll love them with everything I have. And I'll love you, every day I breathe." Clara's eyes filled instantly. She set her coffee aside and threw her arms around him, laughing and sobbing all at once. "You're going to be an incredible father," she whispered. And for the first time in his life, Samuel believed it. They didn't rush. They planned. They talked through fears and hopes. They made space for honesty and healing. Their love deepened not because everything was easy, but because they chose each other even when it wasn't. Months later, when Clara placed Samuel's hand on her growing belly, he cried, openly, freely, without shame. "This is real," he whispered. She nodded, smiling through her tears. It always was. In the end, their story wasn't about fear or shyness or the past that tried to hold them back. It was about courage, quiet, persistent courage. Samuel learned that family isn't something you're born into. Sometimes, it's something you choose. Sometimes, it's something you build from the broken pieces. And sometimes, it begins with a single trembling sentence spoken in love. "I want a child." And the shy rancher who once feared he wasn't enough became the man who proved, to Clara, to their child, and to himself, that he always was.